I grew up in rural Alabama, about 50 miles from Montgomery. But back in 1944, when I was 4 years old, it was my responsibility to care for the chickens. And I fell in love with raising chickens. And from time to time, with the help of my brothers and sisters, we would gather all of our chickens together, and I would start speaking or preaching. But the chicken would help make up the audience, the congregation. These chickens became my friends. And I remember as a little child, when my uncles and aunts wanted to buy some of our chickens, I didn't want that to happen, and I would protest. And I engaged in what I call my first nonviolent protest. As a young child, I asked a lot of questions. When we would visit the little town of Troy or visit Montgomery, I saw those signs that said white men, white waiting, colored waiting. And I would ask my mother and my father why. They would say, that's the way it is. Don't get in the way, don't get in trouble. But as a little boy, I was deeply inspired by the teaching of Jesus. And there was something saying to me that this is not right. It's not in keeping with my faith. And then in 1955, in the 10th grade, I heard about Rosa Parks. The action of Rosa Parks, the words and leadership of Dr. King inspired me to find a way to get in the way, to get in what I call good trouble, necessary trouble. The next year, at the age of 18, I met Martin Luther King Jr., and I got involved in the Civil Rights Movement. When you see something that is not right, not fair, not just, you have to do something about it. And as leaders, our faith called upon us to be headlights and not taillights. And I tried to answer the call. In March of 1965, we were marching from Selma to Montgomery for the right to vote. 600 of us lined up in an orderly, peaceful, nonviolent fashion. When we walked across that bridge on Bloody Sunday, I felt like it was in keeping, not just with the spirit of history, but with the spirit of the Almighty. We came to the highest point on the Edmund Pettus Bridge. Down below we saw a sea of blue, Alabama State Troopers. And a man identified himself and said, this is an unlawful march, will not be allowed to continue. I give you 3 minutes to disperse and return to your homes or to your church. And I said, Major, may I have a word? He said, there'll be no word. He said, troopers, advance. You saw these men putting on their gas masks. They came toward us, beating us with nightsticks. I was hit in the head by a state trooper with a nightstick. I thought I was going to die. I thought it was the last nonviolent protest for me. And more than 50 years later, I don't know how I made it back across that bridge. I was hospitalized. And I said, I don't understand it. How President Johnson can send troops to Vietnam and cannot send troops to Selma, Alabama to protect people who only desires to register to vote. Recent events around our country tell us over and over again that we've come a distance. We made a lot of progress, but we are not there yet. We have not yet redeemed the soul of America. As leaders of the 21st century, you have an obligation to make it plain. Don't be afraid. Be bold. Get out there. Push and pull. People depending on you to lead. Leaders must lead. And never, ever give up or give in. We must continue to work together As a society, we must do it.